stories and legends that illustrate these sentiments. One, of course, is the Christmas Eve miracle that occurred during World War I, where a part of the front line, where the German troops and the British troops were across from each other. The German troops illuminated their trenches and began singing Christmas carols and wishing Merry Christmas across the line to the British soldiers, who of course were a little confused, about this, and they didn't know quite how to respond. They were a little frightened at first. But then as it continued, as the greetings continued and the songs, eventually the British soldiers realized that this was really, truly an offering of peace. And so they came out of their trenches, the German soldiers came out of their trenches, they met in no man's land. And they exchanged greetings, and they shook hands, and they just were human beings with each other for that brief moment in time. Another story that I found while I was researching this was a story about the time when India gained independence from Britain. It was in 1948. And there were two religions that were prevalent in India at that time. The Hindu religion and the Muslim religion. And there was a history of conflict between these two groups. And so the decision was made as Britain was withdrawing to make India, what we know as India today, the place primarily for the Hindu religion, people of the Hindu faith. And Pakistan was meant to be for those of the Muslim faith. And in this way, they felt that perhaps there could be harmonious coexistence. However, it did not work. And there was much fighting and loss of life. And Gandhi, who was one of our early exemplars of nonviolence and peace, spoke about how the only answer was nonviolence, that we could not sustain this approach of trying to solve our differences with violence. And after he spoke, a Hindu man came forward and said, "I'm so touched by what you have told me. I did participate in a horrific killing of a neighbor, his wife. We left orphan children. I don't know what I can do now to make myself right with God again." And Gandhi responded saying, "Go, take those orphans and any other orphans that you can take in, Muslim orphans, take care of them and raise them as Muslims." And the man took this to heart, and he went forward and did that. This was a message of love, promoting peace through understanding. I also found a story from the Native American traditions that tells of 3 warring tribes. There were constant conflicts between these 3 tribes, and 3 elders each of them lost 10 sons. This was very terrible, and in their grief, they went away to mourn. And each one of them separately came to this place. There was a beautiful tree, and began to process what had happened, and were filled with peace once they were there in the presence of this tree. And when the next elder would come, he would be greeted by the one who came there first, and they would talk, and they would understand that they had both suffered from the same senseless violence that was going on between these three tribes. And so at the very end of the story, the elders came to an agreement. They decided we can no longer have war. We must live peacefully with each other. There is so much more that is the same about us than is different. And so they went back to their tribes and they promoted peace, and the story ends with all three of the tribes living peacefully together. These are beautiful stories of peace, I think. But today, I want to talk about peace on a much more personal level, inspired by events I experienced when I was back in Colorado for Christmas. Each year, since I moved to Idaho, I have gone home for either Thanksgiving or Christmas to see my family. My family is small. I don't have any siblings, aunts, uncles. My parents are gone. I go home to be with my 4 grown children and their family. Of course, over the last 12 and a half years since I moved here, the number has grown. All 4 of my children are married. I have 5 beautiful grandchildren aged 2 to 10. Well, my children and their spouses are individually happy. As you can imagine, these holiday celebrations seem to create the perfect atmosphere for some drama. Oh yeah. And this year was no different, because they would want to disappoint me, right? So I arrived to find that my middle daughter, Alicia, and her older sister, Sarah, are in the midst of a major falling out. Oh my goodness. Of course, as mom, I had to be informed, each of them individually telling me what really happened. I think we're right. The other person was wrong. I just say it was easier when they were smaller. Go to your room. Yeah, maybe that is the point, right? Because all of this made me start to think about peace in a different way. First and foremost, if we cannot achieve peaceful resolutions to conflict within our most intimate personal relationships, how can we even begin to bring peaceful resolutions to conflicts between nations?